welcome to the Fitz and Healthy podcast. I am your host, Dr. Lauren Fitz, and tonight I have an extra special guest. And I know that I've said this little line before, but this plastic surgeon here, I have known him for many years, and he is doing me a huge favor in taking time for letting me interview him tonight. So, Dr. Mike Baumholz, how are you doing?
I am fabulous. And let's see, it's been about 14 years, give or take, that we've known each other.
It's crazy.
Dr. Fitzgerald actually was involved in the delivery of my son, who turned 12 last month.
I still can't believe that.
So it's super exciting to be here and watch your success and be part of your show. And I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Thank you. I'm so excited. So you're actually my first friend that I've interviewed. Maybe not
cool.
First. I've interviewed a few friends, but definitely my first friend from the medical field. So
I won't reveal any bad stories.
Okay, good.
There are no bad stories. Good. Yeah, great. Fire away.
You can attest for me that I'm a little on the special side, and I've always been this way.
Listen, you were a fantastic anesthesia resident. You were a fantastic anesthesiologist, and you're fantastic at what you do now. I mean, you seem to bring one level to the game, and that's it. Period.
Thank you. I'm sharing this on my personal Facebook page because I want people to be able to actually ask questions, if you don't mind.
Fire away.
Because I think that this is definitely something that. Okay, here. Why is it not letting me? Okay, hold up. Pause. Something went wrong. It's all good. It's all good. See, this is just part of it that you just kind of go with the flow. Okay, so tonight we're going to talk all things plastic surgery. And
cool.
Can we just start off with, actually, I was going to start off with boobs because that kind of gets everyone's attention, right? But let's kind of talk about what we are going to cover in this, and then we'll just kind of go from there. Because more times than not, this is just a conversation, and I figure that we'll kind of let it go for wherever. But you know that I revealed the fact that I actually have breast augmentation, and I was so embarrassed about it for the longest time. And I don't know, I guess I came out maybe a year or two ago, but it's been a while since I've been on social media. But the reason why I got breast augmentation was the thing that I was actually embarrassed about and shameful about, because I was in a relationship in med school in which my significant other made me feel like that was what I needed to be worthy of being loved. And I'm sure that you see this from a lot of patients. Right. Because I actually never, I had like a B cup on my own. I wasn't like super flat chested, and I never had an issue with my boobs until this man came into my life and gave me an issue. And so I'm all about self-love and self-empowerment, and I just always felt like that. I was ashamed of it, to be honest, because that is not a message of self-love to go alter your body for someone else. So, right. Do you see this often?
We do, and whether it's overt or whether I just happen to bring it up to someone, depending on the vibe you get in the room, I will very frequently say, whatever the procedure is, the lipo, the facelift, the nose job, the boob job, it's not going to keep a partner from straying. It's not going to keep a partner from leaving. It's not going to make anybody love you any better. You do these things for, and even when we do consultations and the significant others in the room, if they want to weigh in, I will often ask them to, because for me, I say, look, it's really about what this person wants. You're lucky enough to get to touch, hold, feel, whatever the word would be, but it's their decision. Exactly. And so I typically will start off a consultation, or if I've been fortunate enough to do an interview or something like that, I say, like, my baseline is I think everybody's beautiful, right? So you got to feel good on the inside, but it's also totally okay to want to, change things that are changeable. Mm. And so, in your case, I'm sad to hear that how you got there. Mm-hmm. But, the most common things we get is the mom who's had kids and they're now deflated and maybe, right. gone south a little bit. So we want to put things back up into a better zip code and then put some volume in.
I love that. Better zip code.
Right. But the idea is that, you want to feel more confident in that dress or in that bathing suit or whatever it might be.
Right.
And, the joke is, of course, if life gave you lemons, a 30-minute operation gave you melons. hypothetically. But I think that there's a lot of negative stuff that's out in the news about breast implants, and we can talk about some of that. But there's a lot of good stuff that exists in the world about breast implants. Again, among the things that we do in the world, it's a relatively safe, reproducible operation. In the United States alone, there's 400,000 breast dogs every single year, roughly 300,000 for cosmetic and another 100,000 in recon.
Wow.
That's every year, and that's just in the U.S.
Wow.
We can talk about saline versus silicone. We can talk about whatever you like, but one of the things that a breast implant will do, people say, well, it's going to limit your ability to detect breast cancer. That's actually not what the research says. Research says women with implants tend to have a higher detection rate. Now, whether that's because women who get breast implants tend to be more involved with their breasts, could be one reason.
Right.
Could also be that all of the breast tissue is being pushed forward,
right,
which makes it easier for a mammogram to see the breast tissue.
Right.
With the rare exception of a tumor that happens to start on the chest wall,
right,
which is hard to see no matter you have implants or not. That's just you've lost the genetic lottery on that one. I mean,
right,
there's a bad location.
Right.
But aside from that, implants are, a relatively easy way to get the shape and volume that somebody wants. Again, you got to be realistic about what you want, but not everybody can be Dolly Parton, nor would they really want to be. Right?
True. Absolutely true. So let's talk to the female that's thinking about getting breast augmentation. So what is your advice from the surgeon's aspect of what are the first things that they need to start thinking about? Like, for example, I always say, do your research on your surgeon. Just because they have a Groupon out or your neighbor went to them does not mean that is good.
Yeah, if you're choosing your surgeon on price point, I think you've already made a fundamental mistake, or at least you're disconnected with what you want your health outcomes to be. You might as well drop out a seatbelt and smoke a cigarette while you're at it. But in the meantime, and you don't have to go to the most expensive person in town. There's this unfounded belief system that if it's more expensive, it must be better.
Right.
That's not true either.
Right.
The things that I care about is, right now, at least in Texas and some other places, there are a group of people that call themselves board certified cosmetic surgeons.
Okay.
Now, that is not the same as a plastic surgeon.
Okay.
So if we're going to talk about breasts, I'm going to tell you that you want to seek out someone that is board certified. So we did a really good job of asking people to ask their doctor, are they board certified?
Right.
Now we got to go a step further and say, what are you board certified in?
Right. And
then we got to go a step further and have you understand what they're actually board certified in. So a cosmetic surgeon is not a plastic surgeon. It's a one-year program, right? So I did 9 years. You might say I did the slow route, but I'm boarded in general surgery. I then went and did hand and microsurgery for adults and kids, and then 3 more years of plastics and pediatric plastics. And I was then told to get a job. Anyway, you should seek out, these are the things you want to look for. So if I decided that today's my last day of wanting to live like a man and I'm going to go and get breast implants, these are the questions I want to know. What are you board certified? And that should be on their website, like clear as F and day.
Yes.
I am board certified by the American Board of Plastic Surgery. Awesome.
Yes.
Are you a member of one of the national societies, ASPS or ASAPS? It's not always a sign of a higher quality, but it's a little bit of a red flag if you're not. I mean, those are the two major societies that cover all of plastic surgery. So if you're not a member of them, why?
Right.
That would be a concern.
Exactly.
The next thing is, have you done enough of this to be comfortable or competent? And that's a pretty simple, how long have they been in practice? How many iterations? I think from anesthesia, do you have to do 1,000 intubations to be comfortable? Well, you got to do about 3, honestly. And then you have to be able to handle the ones that you've never seen before, So then my next question is, how many of these you've done? How do you manage complications? If I have a problem at 2 a.m, who am I going to talk to? Am I going to talk to the answering service? Am I going to talk to the nurse or the MA? Am I going to have to talk to you?
Right.
If there's a problem, do you run away from it or you run to it? Like I run to it.
Right.
I mean, early aggressive management. Let's have you in. We see patients the day after surgery, the next day. We see them as often as they need to be seen.
Right.
That's not right for everybody, but that's just kind of how we do it. So I think the really important questions is, what are you board certified in? And we're specifically looking for the American Board of Plastic Surgery. How many iterations of this have you done? Have you done enough to be comfortable?
Right.
And they're going to say yes or no. And you're going to, if someone says, I've done a number of these, remember 0 is a number, 1 is a number. So I've done a number of these, really isn't that helpful. Have you done enough of these to be comfortable? Right? Have you done enough of these to be comfortable? And then what's your approach to managing complications? And I'll say this to you, anybody that says they don't have complications either is lying or they haven't done enough surgery.
Exactly.
Because if we accept the notion that surgery is a full contact sport, then you are going to have a complication. So I'm going to have a complication. The next person's going to have everyone's going to have a complication, right? I wore my seatbelt to work this morning. I did not have an accident, and yet I still wore it when I drove home. Why? Because I want to mitigate or limit complications.
Right.
So the next question is, where is my surgery going to take place? Are we doing this in the public storage bin, or are we going to do this in a real hospital? So there are some people that have their own operating rooms. God bless. Are they certified? You know, what kind of people are going to be looking after me? I work with board certified anesthesiologists. I work with my same team over and over again. That's difficult in the hospital setting, I'll be honest, but it's one of the few places I stomp and cry and scream because the data is very clear, as you know, from anesthesia. You work with the same people over and over again, especially your anesthesiologist, right? Your complications go down, your risks go down, your efficiencies go up. All good things happen from working with the same people over and over again. So I insist on that as much as I can do it. So I think those are reasonable questions to ask. You know, the next thing, sort of tangential to this, is, and we talked about this briefly off camera, was that, you know, people ask me, what's the most common thing I do? And I know they're wanting, you know, do I do boobs mostly or nose? Am I a nose guy? Am I an ears guy? What am I?
Right.
And my answer is always the same. The most common thing I do is manage expectations. You know, when the 400-pounder brings you a picture of J-Lo's ass and says, I want to look like that, my obligation is to say, nay. That's an unrealistic expectation.
Right.
A lot of people that come for liposuction that need bariatric surgery. Right. You know, if your BMI is in the 40s, I'm the wrong place for you.
You need to send them to me.
Plastic surgery. Correct. Right?
Yes.
Because there's some fundamental changes that you got to make. Now, look, when I was a general surgeon, we had people that could beat a gastric bypass.
Right.
Because if you take 30 cc's, a shot glass of Hershey's chocolate syrup every hour, you can beat a gastric bypass, and people have. We've seen it.
Right.
You know, the joke is it's a subdiaphragmatic surgery for a supratentorial issue. That's a whole different topic for another day. But you know, I really think that you want to be successful in plastic surgery. You want to maintain your results as long as possible, be as close to your goal weight as possible, live the life that, you sort of don't drop 20 pounds immediately and come in, because what's going to happen is you're going to rebound. You're going to rebound hard.
Right.
Those are the kinds of things that we think about and we talk about with our patients.
Do you have this is just totally an idea, but do you have anybody like me in your clinic that you can send them to? Why are we not doing this then?
We should.
Yeah.
So I will tell you that here in San Antonio, you've got a couple different groups of weight loss, a couple different types of weight loss people out there.
Yeah.
You have the ones that push pills, the ones that push surgery.
Yeah.
And we work with a couple groups that offer both. Okay. Because at least I think that's a more fair presentation, so that, you know, it's not like everybody gets the same thing. Right. But you know, it's a little more tailored. You know, this one should get lifestyle diet modification. This one may get some medical assistance, and this one may need surgical assistance. I think that's, I'd like to see more of that. There's only a few groups that we work with in town that seem to do that. And they're great. Right. You know, but we have, we're kind of known, or I turn down a lot of people. I also will take on more of the risky cases or the cases that people have said no to. One of my favorite stories is, I did just to show how shameless I am and that I have bills to pay. No, I'm kidding. I did a tummy tuck on a gal that had a kidney transplant. Okay. Oh. And I said to her, how many surgeons turned you down before you came to me? And she said 6. So I had to laugh. So, how I approach this is, you know, I'm not a cowboy. I have a background in complex reconstructive things. Her kidney transplant actually had herniated out of its pocket. Oh, geez. So contacted her transplant medical team. I got them to sign off on it. Got emergency privileges or temporary privileges at the local transplant hospital, which, you know, Methodist Specialty Transplant. Yep. Did the surgery with her transplant surgeon, because the first thing we did was reconstruct the abdominal wall, put the kidney back where it was supposed to be, and then did the tummy tuck over it, and then watched her in the hospital with her transplant team. That's awesome. And so I think that, you know, if you want to be a really good aesthetic surgeon, be a really good reconstructive surgeon. Yeah. You know, it saddens me to see people sort of blaze through their training and think that they're just going to go out and stuff boobs and all those kinds of things. And you know as well as I do, every now and then you'll get a young, healthy person on the table and some weird shit will happen. And if you haven't seen iteration after iteration, that's going to kind of cause you some grief. Yep. And there again, it goes back to, you know, are you working with people that have the experience? Yeah. You know, the young person that was never worked up, not that because they just wouldn't. You know, plastic surgery sees
The healthiest patient.
Surgical. But I'm saying, but we get first-time surgical patients more than any other discipline.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So the person that went their whole life never really having a problem is now going to present with a electrical induction abnormality in the heart, a structural abnormality,
right.
You know, a jaw that doesn't open the whole way,
yep.
You know, a very anterior intubation kind of thing. Why? Because this is the first time they're having it. And so all of a sudden your very simple day heads into the toilet very quickly, unless you're with people that, and you're right, you're shaking out, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah.
You know, you know, when it was more general surgery and you'd see these, you know, 60, 70, 80-year-old people, but they'd have 10, 12 operations under their belt. And so their whole, you know, risk panel was known.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't mean it was a safe surgery, but it just means at least you knew what you're getting into.
Right.
Most of our people, we don't know until we get, even with a good workup, a medical doctor that sees them, a pulmonologist, whatever it is, you still find things at surgery. Well, so it's a little far afield from your question, but I guess the answer is go to people that have the credentials and experience to give you what you're looking for.
Yeah.
And then be realistic about what you're looking for.
I found, I don't even remember the name of my surgeon in San Antonio because I was 25 and I know, isn't that terrible? Because he wasn't, I asked the plastic surgery fellow, her name was Carrie. She was a bitch. She was, I don't even remember her last name, but she was good. And I asked her, I was like, if you were going to have boobs, who would you go to? You know, trying to totally, I'm sure she knew that I was talking for me, but she told me. And so the doc was completely not associated with, you know, anyone in the university hospital setting. And I went and did it my fourth year of med school. And didn't tell anyone because I was so ashamed of it. So I know. So, okay.
And it's funny because
now what?
No, as I say, nowadays in the era, women get a breast aug, and you know it's a hard time getting them to keep their tops on because they want to show their girlfriends, they want to show their, you know, their sister, their mom. It's like, whoa, we're in a restaurant bathroom. Yeah, God bless.
Yeah, for sure. So, okay, so the woman that's considering getting breast augmentations for the right reasons, not to please anyone, but I can think of one of my very good friends who literally just sent me a picture of, you know, herself because she's had 2 kids and she's lost so much weight and she's in great shape, but she still has that part of her stomach and her boobs that she's insecure about. And so yeah. But you're not, she's not in San Antonio.
But God made planes.
Right. This is true. This is true. Very true.
And if you're in California, it's cheaper to come to me than it is to do it there.
Oh boy, is that true. Man, jeez, everything's so expensive there. Anyway, so now they're thinking of, okay, so I've done the proper research and I found a good, highly qualified surgeon. And now I need to make decisions like silicone or saline and the size and all that kind of stuff. So guide them through that process.
Right. So I'm gonna make this as easy as I possibly can be, because I think there is this unnecessary complication swirling around how to pick. Okay, so let's just talk through it. Okay, number one, how big you look to the world around you has more to do with your fashion choices than the size of your breast. Flat-chested girls can go to Victoria's Secret, get a bombshell bra, which pulls skin from the spine all the way around to the front. They can wear a low-cut blouse, and they can look like they got it going on. You also have a girlfriend whose boobs are as big as your head. They can do 2 sports bras and a loose blouse, and nobody needs to know. So let's accept that how you dress determines how you look, at least for the world around you.
That's
number one.
Yeah.
The next Baumholtz-ism. There is no industry standard on cup sizes. You go to 5 different stores and buy the same letter and number bra. You get 5 different bras, no 2 are alike, and none fit. So I do not discuss cup size, because that's a great way to get into trouble in a hurry.
Absolutely.
Somebody says, I've got to be a D cup. Great. We will go on Amazon and find you something that says D. The next thing is there's no even accepted standard on how to wear a bra. I mean, there's some in a shoe, right? I mean, but in a bra, one gal will be just touching the inside of the fabric and they think that's their size. One gal will be busting out of it. They think that's their size.
Right.
So we've got no industry standardization on making the damn thing. We've got no standardization or accepted pattern of wearing the damn thing. So we don't talk cup size. The next fallacy is talking about CCs. People really get wrapped up about CCs.
Yes.
And the best analogy I can give is you and I are going to build a house together. Sorry, Chris. You and I are going to build a house together. And I'm going to say it's going to be 3,000 square feet.
Okay.
But that does not give either one of us enough information to go build this damn house. Do I want a 4-story with tiny rooms? Do I want a ranch house? Because in the implant catalog, let's pick 400 cc's. 400 cc's is going to appear in multiple places in the catalog because it's going to be either a tall and narrow implant or a wide and flat implant.
Right.
So I don't care about cc's. And that really upsets a lot of people because they're like, well, what's cc's in that? I'm like, don't care. Like, why don't you care? So here's how I do it. From the edge of your breastbone
Okay.
to where the ribs start to turn into the armpit,
Okay.
it's called your base diameter.
Okay.
Right? So we'll call that the foundation.
Okay.
So any wider than that, and the thing's hanging out in the armpit, no
Right.
bueno.
Right. No bueno.
Much more narrow than that, and it's going to look like a rock in a sock. No bueno.
No bueno.
So we're going to pick an implant that is roughly that dimension, and now we're going to decide how far out we want this sucker to stick.
Right.
And I talk in terms of stories of the house because one company says profile, one projection. Everybody knows that a 2-story house is taller than a 1-story house. So in silicone implants, you've got like 1, 2, 3, 4, and it's basically how far out you want this sucker to stick.
Right.
And everyone always does this, but no implant in the world goes that far. None. Okay.
No.
The other, so then what we do is, I'm fortunate enough that I've got a 3-dimensional imaging program that does a pretty good job of showing a gal what she's going to look like with these implants. Now, it's a simulation, but at least it's a way to begin.
Yeah.
The number one problem that people complain about when they try an implant on top of their skin after surgery, more than 30% will admit that they aren't big enough. And the reason for that is it's going to look bigger on top of the skin than it is under the tissue.
Right.
So I've got a modeling program that that can give a gal at least a rough idea of what things are going to look like.
Okay.
The next thing we do is we ask the woman to go online, and I want naked pictures. I don't want Victoria's Secret catalogs. I want naked breast pictures and body types similar to theirs of looks they like. We are a visual society.
That's smart.
So show me what you want to.
Right.
And I'm going to try to match a surgical plan to that.
Okay. That's smart.
I also ask them to bring me a couple pictures of looks they don't like.
Right.
Because sometimes people will show you something and say, what do you like about that? I don't know. All right, that's not too helpful. But someone who says, here's one that I don't like. Well, what don't you like about it? Well, they're really round and stuck on, and they're far apart. The nipples are looking into different rooms, and whatever it might be. Bless you. Bless you.
Thank you.
And so that gives us a good foundation of trying to, because ultimately you got to climb inside the person's head and get a sense of what do they want to see when they look in the mirror.
Right.
And having them bring me pictures, not from my website, not from somebody, go on to Google, type in, it's funny. We had a gal, she had 2 teenage boys, and she says, I just don't know where to look for naked breast pictures. I said, ask your sons. She did not find that as funny as I thought she would. I don't know. But yeah, so.
Oh, that's so funny.
But we some days we have to Google naked breast.
Right.
And if they need a lift, right? A lot of women, nobody wants a lift, and I don't blame them, right? I mean, who wants those scars and the complex and whatever? But if your areola is the lowest portion of your breast, you're probably going to need a lift unless you're going to go, supersize.
Right.
So then we say, Google naked breast implant with lift. I want people to see the scar patterns. I want them to see what things look like.
Right. Right.
Other things to consider, we tell women, okay, so you need to be done breastfeeding.
Yep.
For at least 6 months on average, maybe, some days less, some days more, right?
Right.
You need to understand that if you're going to have another child in the future, and breastfeeding is mission critical, right? You should not have breast surgery of any kind.
No. Because
you can take away a woman's ability to breastfeed.
Yeah.
It's rare, but it's possible.
But it is possible.
And so if I see a young gal, we'll talk about, is this something you're considering? If so, and if it's mission critical,
right?
Wait, stop, don't do it.
Yeah.
That's how I size people. It's really very much a what's called dimensional analysis. It's how wide are you?
Right.
And then it's like, we go shoe shopping at DFW, right? I've never been, but I understand that, what size shoe do you wear?
It's 7.
Fantastic. So we look down the 7 aisle and you've got flats and wedges and heels and stop traffic heels.
Yes.
Same thing with implants. We've got a base diameter or a volume that's going to fit, or a dimension that's going to fit. And then we just decide, flat, wedge, heel, stop traffic heel. Right? Right. Right. Another big misconception is, we get gals that, they're worried about cleavage. Cleavage comes from your clothing. Cleavage is determined by the width of your breastbone.
Yes.
And if we put an implant under the muscle, then the implants are going to be that width apart from each other.
Right.
And there's a lot of good reasons to be below the muscle. Maybe one of your, maybe somebody wants to take issue with that, but for the moment, let's talk about below the muscle. If you go above the muscle and if you try to violate that anatomy, in other words, if you give a gal boobs that are touching, ultimately that space will open up and it's a nice party trick to push the implant from one side to the other. I had a
Not a
gal
party
the other day,
trick that they would want to have.
no. I had a gal the other day. She's like, I want my breast to touch. And I'm like, no, you don't. She's
No,
like,
you
don't tell me what I want. I'm like, okay, sweetheart. I'm like, we live in San Antonio where it is hot as the sun.
Yes, it is.
I said, do you like it when your thighs touch all the time? No.
No.
I said, do you really want your breast to touch 24/7? She's like, no. Got it. Right. Skin breakdown, rashes, all those fun things. Ask any woman that's ever considered a breast reduction, and they can tell you all about the fun stuff of boobs touching constantly. Right.
Yes,
so lift and separate, ladies.
Yes.
The other thing is every now and then I'll get someone that comes in and they'll say, I want saline implants because I want no silicone in my body.
Right.
And then I've got to, bow my head and shake because every implant on the planet has a silicone shell.
Correct.
Right? When people say saline or silicone, what they mean is what it's filled with.
Correct.
Right. To date, there is this much evidence that silicone makes people sick. Right.
Okay.
Silicone was the OG implantable medical inert material.
Mm-hmm.
If you needed a new knee, a new hip, certainly new knuckles, they were made out of silicone, right?
Right.
Again, with our 400,000 implants every single year in the United States alone, if silicone was making people sick in the era of Facebook and Instagram, we'd probably hear about it.
Right.
Okay. So a couple of weeks ago, the FDA held hearings on two issues, which I hope we can talk about for a minute.
Yeah, let's talk for sure.
Yeah, one is BII and one is BIAALCL. It's the alphabet soup of breast implants. Okay, BII, breast implant illness.
Okay.
There are people in the world that believe that their new implants are making them sick in one form or another. Okay, you'll see it on the internet.
Yes, I've had a few people message me about it.
Right. What you won't see is a lot of even reasonable data. Forget level 1 data. What you won't see is a lot of reasonable data that those symptoms cannot be explained in some other way.
Okay.
And if you believe in the power of placebo, and I'm not in any way discounting what these gals are going through as being real. Let's be clear about this.
Absolutely.
Okay? However, what I can't do is scientifically connect the dots between that implant and those symptoms.
Right.
Does removing the implant resolve the symptoms? In a lot of those cases, they say they do.
Right.
But could those symptoms be caused by something else? Or could you think yourself into those symptoms? You can. I did not say they're crazy. I did not say any of that. So let's avoid the hate mail. Yeah. I'm just saying that for the most part, I cannot come up with a medically verifiable, scientifically based answer how that implant is making them sick. Okay? That said, if someone has implants and they come to me, they want me to take them out, happy to take them out. Here's the charge. Okay?
Right.
Now, let's talk about BIAALCL, breast implant associated ALCL, which is a form of lymphoma.
Yep.
There, depending on which study you read, there's a couple, 3, 4, 5,000 cases in the world literature.
Okay.
Total, right? 400,000 implants in the U.S. alone, 5,000 total.
Wow, that's very small
percentage, right?
Yeah.
In all of the cases where they could identify the implant, it was textured.
Okay.
So implants can either be smooth surface, or textured, rough surface.
Okay.
So in these cases of this very, very rare cancer, they were textured.
Okay.
And so today, Allergan, which is one of the biggest makers of breast implants, voluntarily announced that they were voluntarily removing all textured implants from their product line. Okay?
Wow.
Now, the FDA, and they did that in conjunction with the FDA. So the FDA has not mandated that. The FDA did not recommend that.
Okay.
Allergan decided that was the right thing to do. I applaud them. I think that was great.
Yeah.
I just want to say this to anybody that's listening. If you already have textured implants inside, no one, not any of the societies, not the FDA, no one has yet to recommend routine removal of those.
Okay.
Okay. You may choose to. That may be a personal thing. I would look at it the same way that you develop a new mole. You don't know what it is. There's really only one way.
Right.
The dermatologist is saying you can just observe it. That's great, but you're losing sleep over it. Take it out. Cut it out. Right. But if my family member had a textured implant, we would have this conversation.
I was about to ask you that exact question. If your sister had, I don't know if you have a sister, but if
I don't,
no.
Right. But the dilemma is, here's the big dilemma. What we don't know is there a relationship between contact time of the texturing and the tissue that produces this or what produces this. So even swapping out to a smooth implant, silicone or saline, sorry,
Right.
may not yield the results that you're looking for. But also understand, let's take a tangent for a second. Gals that are BRCA positive who have a mastectomy, or people that have a prophylactic mastectomy in general, that does not take your risk to zero.
No, it doesn't.
It lowers your risk, but it doesn't take it to zero. Most people don't understand that, right?
Yeah.
So yes, you could take the textured out, but it's likely not going to lower your risk to zero.
Right.
At least based on current understanding. It's a little gray, but that's where we're at the moment. All right, back to saline versus silicone.
Yeah.
If you're under 23 in the United States, for cosmetic purposes, you have to have saline.
Really?
Now, this is let's hope the FDA is not listening, because this is effed up. So, effectively, when we were younger, Connie Chung took to the airwaves and said silicone implants make people sick. And on her recommendation alone, silicone implants were removed off the market during an FDA moratorium. Now, that oversimplifies, and I'm sure some people are going to rip out hair if they hear me say that. But that's sort of the gist of it, right?
Okay.
That was the one news broadcaster. Anyway, to say, by the way, in the rest of the world, they continue to use silicone implants, shaking their shoulders as to why the U.S. was doing this. Well, to save face, when silicone implants came back on the market, the FDA said that if you're under 23, so you're 22 and younger, you have to have saline.
Interesting.
Unless you were sick or you were born with a congenital anomaly where like Poland sequence, where you didn't develop a breast, or amasty, you had no breast. Okay. So let me understand this, FDA. If you're young and healthy and under 23,
this. This makes no sense.
If you're young and healthy and under the age of 23, you can't have this. But if you're sick, well, you can have that implant. How does that make sense? Right. Thank you, FDA. Let's assume for the story that you're 23 or older and you can choose saline or silicone. The benefits of saline, you can use a slightly smaller incision.
Okay.
And you inflate it on the table, which gives you some degree of latitude in balancing, size, little differences and those kinds of things. And in the population that wants to go super big and they don't want to pay for a custom implant, you can certainly overfill a saline implant much beyond what the manufacturer states. Delete that section, Mr. and Mrs. Allergan. But you can overfill a saline implant. They're designed, probably put 3,000 cc story. However, pound for pound, a saline implant will ripple more. And in other words, if you've got thin tissue and you're wearing something revealing or you're leaning forward, you're going to see ripples because it's a thin liquid in a bag, right?
Right.
In your 20s and 30s, it's probably dealer's choice, in terms of what it feels like. Late 30s, 40s, 50s, a silicone implant is going to feel more like a natural breast.
Okay.
Now, the decision has to be, is that important to the woman? Right? Because the person who has their hands on them should get no vote in the matter. And we tell people all the time, if the person you're letting put your hands on has a complaint about it, find someone else to put your hands on.
Exactly.
They're out there, I assure you, right?
Exactly.
So, and then the last thing is how do you get it into the body? So there's some nifty approaches. You can come in through the armpit, you can go around the areola, you can go under the breast, and you go from the belly button. Let's discount the belly button right now. I think it's a garbage operation.
Thank you. I agree.
Well, you have no control over where you put the implant.
Right.
Period. I like an incision at the bottom of the breast, and I'm going to tell you why.
Okay.
At some point in your young life, you will likely need a new set of implants. We'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah, believe me, I was going to ask you.
Right. Or you may need a lift, or you may need something else.
Right.
Capture contracture, whatever it might be. I can use that inframammary incision over and over and over again.
Gotcha.
And even in a large implant, 5-6 centimeters, 7 at the most, I can get almost every implant I need in. Even a very, very revealing bathing suit is still going to hide that incision.
Okay.
So again, that's between you and whoever you're naked in front of. And if you're in the business of being naked, hypothetically, you're going to wear cover-up makeup.
Right.
God bless. Right.
Right.
The armpit. Well, the armpit is a nice incision
that's where they did for me.
For either a small silicone or a saline, because you can have if you're going to put a big mother implant in, you're going to make a big mother incision.
Right. Mine is small, but saline for me.
Right. Now, I had a friend who was an attorney in Philadelphia. She was getting on it. She had transaxillary, through the armpit, transaxillary. She transaxillary augmentation. I can't believe the cojones on this jerk that did this. But anyway, she's getting on a plane. She takes off her business jacket and goes to put it in the bin above. And the guy sees her armpit. He says, "How big did you go?" Now, can you imagine somebody saying that?
Oh, I would have smacked his throat.
Right. Yeah, right. But the fact remains that you can be at the pool, or, you lift your arms up. Somebody may not know what you had done, but unless that scar healed beautifully,
Right.
and you probably did, right? Like
Yeah, you
your
can't see it
skin
at all.
type.
Yeah.
Right. You're like a FITz 2. Right? Remember that?
Yeah.
So you're a FITz 100 in my book. Right? You're a FITz 2, and so your skin healed great.
Yeah.
Do that same approach in a dark skinned gal. You may not get the scar you want,
Right.
and now you've got a red flag that's not going to be covered by anything.
Right.
I just don't love it. Okay.
Right.
Above or below the muscle. This is a little bit controversial. I like below the muscle in the great majority of my patients.
Yeah.
If you're going to have breast augmentation, you should educate yourself what capsular contracture is.
Yep.
It's a hardening of the tissue layer around the implant. It's mostly genetically determined. And there's the belief and some evidence that under the muscle mitigates or lowers the risk of having that implant in that position.
Yep.
However, the downside of under the muscle, a little bit longer recovery when you have it done.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're naked and doing the things that naked people do, or you're wearing something revealing,
Yep.
the implant and breast can move, right?
Yeah.
It's called animation deformity.
Okay.
Because everything related to an implant has to have a fancy name.
Of course.
Fracture, animation deformity.
Right. Right.
Come see Bombos Plastic Surgery. But the great majority of our patients, and we do a lot of these, that's not really an issue.
Okay.
It's a fair trade to lower the risk. Again, lower does not mean remove. Lower means lower of having this capsular contracture. All right. Back in the day, surgeons told their patients every 10 years they needed a new implant.
Yes.
Right.
Wait, say that.
Data.
Wait, say that again, because there was internet connection disconnect for like 15 seconds. Say that last sentence again.
Back in the day, plastic surgeons told their patients that every 10 years they needed new implants.
Correct.
Like changing oil in your car or some nonsense.
Right. Like I'm 15 years out, and there's no desire to do it again anytime soon right now.
Perfect. So let's talk about that.
Yeah.
The data says, and the data has been repeated enough times, it's been validated, that 5 women out of 100 women over 10 years is going to have some problem with their implants. So it's a 5% risk rate. That's the stated risk rate for breast implants across the board.
Okay.
That does not say, so you have to be at least a little bit of student of statistics to know, that does not say that at 9 years, 11 months, and 30 days, you have a ticking time bomb that's going to burst silicone into your body. That's not what that's at all.
Right.
And yet I think there was this fair degree of scare tactics for surgeons to say, you got to come every 10 years and get new implants. That's not what that says.
Yeah.
What it says, statistically speaking, 5 women out of 100 women are going to have some problem over the course of 10 years. There are people with generation 1 implants, 30 plus years that the implants are intact. They're fine. They're doing okay. God bless. There's also a subset of people with silicone implants specific. We'll talk about saline in a minute, where the shell of the implant has ruptured, but the biologic capsule is holding the silicone in place. So visibly, there's no difference.
Right.
How it feels, there's no difference. It may be detected on mammography or ultrasound or MRI. But honestly, if it's not causing the problem, that's not a push for me to go change, right?
Right.
Extra capsule rupture where the silicone's out of the bag is a different story. We can talk about that later if you like.
Yeah.
Saline, if your implant goes down, you get an extra Gatorade and a flat tire. So if you're, and you might, I don't know if you could take it as a business write-off for like, if you're getting really dehydrated on stage, you could take a needle and stab yourself and, you'd be like, what's going on with Lauren? She's rejuicing. Right. No, but the truth of the matter is, in a saline, it's a little more of a complicated device because it has a fill valve, right? You have to fill it. You got to make sure the valve seats.
Right.
But frankly, if you have your implants for 15 years and you're otherwise happy, God bless.
Right. Right.
So that's really it on that. So if you were my patient, you want to travel to San Antonio, I would say to you, if you're happy, great.
Right.
At some point, you'll stop being happy. Time and gravity are plastic surgeons' best friends.
True.
Things will go south. God bless.
Yep.
And you'll want something else. As a matter, so how do I use that 10-year rule? So let's say someone's come to me for a revision. The bulk of what I do is secondary surgery, which I really enjoy because I enjoy the complexity of it. If you've had your implants for more than, a couple, 3, 4, 5 years, I am more than likely going to recommend that if you have to have some revision surgery, that we replace them with new, just because we're going to be there. And that's changing the implant, aside, I'm not spending other people's money, but aside from the cost of it, the act of being in the operating room and having that pocket open, put new implants in. It just makes sense. Right?
Absolutely. 100%. Okay, so let's shift from boobs to the abdomen, because I know I've got so many women that are on my team that have had babies, that have lost a lot of weight, and are still so unhappy with that midsection, no matter how great of shape they get in. So
love it. Yes. So the conversation goes something like this: we tell gals all the time to go home and hug their beautiful children and say, "Mommy loves you, but mommy blames you."
Yes.
So there's really three parts to a tummy. There's skin, there's fat, and then there's problems with the muscle.
Right.
And the number one problem that I see is patients will go to, I'm not going to throw shade on Sanabello, but I'll just pick on them because it's the prototypical practice in its space.
Okay.
So you have a problem with your muscle, and you have a problem with your skin and fat, and you go to Sanabello and they do liposuction. Liposuction is great for the fat portion of that.
Right.
But like a balloon, if you go to empty out the contents of the balloon, what's going to happen to the balloon? It's going to sag. Right. So if I've got some loose skin and some fat, and I do aggressive liposuction and only aggressive liposuction, and I think that the skin is going to tighten up enough to take away that's called magical thinking. That's not thinking based in reality.
Right.
If you're, over time, the hallmark of aging, one of them is, of course, is decreasing collagen content in the skin. And as that decreases, you lose the elasticity or the bounce back. So
I just did a video on this literally an hour ago.
Right. Unless we're doing this on a 15-year-old, in which case we shouldn't, but you know what I mean? It's not going to happen. Okay.
Right.
So oftentimes I will get someone who came from that consultation, and what we do is we take a picture of the gal, we project it on a screen, and then with the stylist, we'll draw and we'll show you, here's the incision, this is what you need. And it really is a break. You have to present the person with what the problem is, or what the problems are.
Right.
And most commonly, these gym rats will come with a little pooch that no matter how many sit-ups or kettlebells or whatever the hell they do, they cannot get rid of for love or money.
Right.
And that's because the muscles have moved apart. Diastasis recti has gotten into the public vocabulary. That's great.
It has.
But to be clear, this is almost never a covered event. These are cosmetic cases, aesthetic cases, out of pocket. There's a difference between a paniculectomy and an abdominoplasty. A paniculectomy just cuts off the apron of skin, and there's a whole bunch of criteria that they have to meet to do that. But let's talk about a tummy tuck. So to me, a tummy tuck is a low incision.
Right.
I make my incision very low. If there was one thing I could do that would decrease the number of phone calls I get at night or the problems or headaches I get, it would be to take my incision and raise it up. My incision is about 4 to 5 centimeters off the vaginal opening. So I'm low.
Right.
I don't know what fashion trend is going to be in 10 years, but unless you're planning to show the fur line, I'm way below that, right? But
yes.
the quality of the skin and the blood supply down there is not great. So we're going to trade some hand holding and maybe some wound care for a little while.
Yeah.
But at a year, at 5 years, at 10 years, my incision is lower than most. I get gals that'll come and their incision will be halfway between the vagina and the umbilicus, the belly button. And now what do you do?
Right.
Because they can't wear a two-piece anything unless it's a two-piece burqa.
Right.
And just, it's really a shame. So a low incision.
Yep.
And then tightening of the muscles, and then a little bit of a bending on the table, and we get rid of the excess skin. I also started tummy tuck with actually liposuctioning the back, because if you put your hand on the low back area, that's your lumbar fat pad.
Yes.
And even relatively thin women will have that lumbar fat pad.
Yep.
And if you don't, in my opinion, if you don't address it at the time of your tummy tuck, you're going to end up being a little wider on the backside than you need it to be.
Right.
And so they'll come and they'll be like, yeah, I love how flat I am up front, but this roll still hangs over my belt in the back or the skirt or whatever it is. And what did you do wrong? And you're like, right. The other thing that I see a lot of is people will come and they'll have dog ears on either side of their tummy tuck incision.
Yep.
And they want to say like what a horrible surgeon this person was or whatever. And 99% of the time it's miscommunication, right?
Right.
The surgeon is, the patient is saying, I want this. And the surgeon is saying, your surgery is going to do this. And they never connect. They never converge.
Correct.
And so, I talk to people about the difference between vertical excess. That's the part that hangs over your belt buckle.
Right.
Horizontal excess, which is the part that hangs over your hips.
Yep.
A traditional tummy tuck is fantastic at vertical access.
Right.
It ain't so great at horizontal.
Right.
So if you ended up with dog ears, it's one of a couple reasons. Either the wrong tool was used for the job.
Yeah.
It's possible. And that can be because either the patient said they didn't want a cut that went all the way around, or a cut that went up and down like an anchor, or any number of reasons.
Right.
Or the surgeon failed to appreciate how much extra skin there was.
Right.
And that's not a bad thing. I mean, I have patients where I will legitimately try to do a smaller surgery because a good percent of the time we're going to get away with it.
Right.
As opposed to committing everybody to a big surgery when some of them aren't going to need it.
Right. Right.
I would drive a better car. I would have a bigger office if I said yes to everybody and did all this kind of stuff. It doesn't feel right.
No.
Liposuction at the time of tummy tuck. A little controversial. I've really stepped back from doing liposuction on the front at the same time of the tummy tuck. And the rationale is there's a limit to how much liposuction is basically stabbing someone with a metal stick. So there's a limit to how much you can beat someone's tissue up from the inside with liposuction.
Yes.
And then do a cut and pull on the outside and think it's going to heal without a wound problem.
Yeah.
So if someone is really thick, I will propose that we do liposuction first, front and back.
Right.
And then 3 months later, go deal with the skin.
Okay.
It's just a safer way to approach it.
Okay. What about the women that want both the tummy tuck and the boobs?
Whoop, whoop. That is a mommy
makeover. Yes.
Yes.
Is it best for them? Is it best for them to do it all at one time?
Aesthetic surgery is very much. It was funny. I used the expression like riding in a taxi the other day, and this woman was looking at me, and I said, "Uber?" She's like, "Oh, okay, yeah." It's like riding in a car service. The longer the trip, the more the meter's running. So,
correct. So
the choice. People have this unrealistic expectation of the blue plate special, where let's just do everything at once because I'm going to be under anesthesia.
Right.
I intentionally don't do that. Now, boobs and belly, fine.
Right.
There are certain operations where I think it should be a standalone. Like if you're going to do a body lift where you're going all the way around, you got to be careful about how many cuts you put on people, because at the end of the day, I go home, but you got to heal. Yeah. You got to get up, you got to walk, you got to not get a blood clot in your leg, you got to not get a pneumonia. I've seen young, healthy people debilitated in the hospital for a week because their surgeon decided to do, breasts, arms, legs, and belly.
Jeez.
Great. The person has they're like a turtle on their back. They have no ability to get up and move. So, but back to the question of breast and belly. Yes, I think for a lot of people, it's a very reasonable thing to do together. I think the choice of combining surgeries has a lot to do with how much time off you get from work, how much you're going to get to recover. Somebody who, let's say, works for the federal government and they get one chunk of time that they can take. Great. Let's consider pushing the envelope a little more.
Right.
But I think for the average person, boobs and belly is reasonable. Belly and back lipo is reasonable. We try to limit the number of hours someone's under anesthesia for elective procedures.
Right.
And
although I did some long ass cases with you in the OR.
Yes, you did, but they were not elective.
No, they weren't. This is true.
So, when I was in Philly, we would do reconstructive, cancer operations, microsurgical cases, trauma cases. And for us to hit 16, 18, 20 hours was not that unusual, unfortunately. I don't miss those days. God bless the men and women that are still doing those kinds of cases. The world needs you. Mm-hmm. But I really think that for an elective operation, 5, 6, 7 hours, you're really pushing it. You're going beyond that. You have a really good reason why.
Yeah, I agree.
That's not throwing shade to people that take longer or decide to do bigger cases. That's just what feels right to me.
Is it okay if I ask, money, cost wise, what's because it's been so long since I actually had my surgery. What is the going rate for boobs and tummy tuck and mommy makeovers and that kind of stuff?
Right. So I don't mean this. I mean, this is a sincere comment. I've divorced myself from a lot of the numbers side of it. Nice. Because I have a closer that or patient care coordinator, whose job it is to do that. And one of the reasons is because prices of facilities will fluctuate.
Absolutely.
My anesthesiologist will fluctuate.
Yep.
And then there's our numbers. And so I have stuck my foot in my mouth a couple times, either too high or too low.
Right.
Patients
I just want kind of a range.
Right. So right now, one of the things that you know about this, one of the things that I believe in. So I've assembled a team of people at my office that I think are just fantastic.
Right.
And I really want people to get to know them.
Yeah.
So the two ways that we're doing that is we literally have, I think, the cheapest Botox in town.
Nice.
Not because I have to, but because I really want people to know what an outstanding injector we have.
Right.
My breast dog, I can tell you, it's the one number I do know. It's $49.99.
The one number you do know. Okay.
$49.99. And honestly, it's not a joke. I mean, that's soup to nuts in a real hospital with a real anesthesiologist and your choice of saline or silicone. And we can do that because I am a high volume practice.
Right.
And we have a lovely relationship with our vendors, and we're able to do this for the time being.
Right.
Can I do it forever? No, but I want people to get to know the practice and to get to know us and what we do.
Right.
We start to do a lift. It's going to go up. I mean, I suspect, and I wish I had. I'm going to stick my foot in my mouth here. I suspect we're doubling that and even a little more.
Yeah.
Based on complexity. Tummy, routine kind of tummies. I think we're probably in that ballpark. Again, I'd be happy that sort of, we have no problem quoting, sort of ranges of things.
Right, of course.
You see my ears are turning red because I'm embarrassed. I don't.
I know. I was like, can I ask this?
No, you can ask. And wait a second. I'm going to text my coordinator. You keep talking.
No, just because I obviously lived in California, and the cost of, well, first of all, I didn't realize that butt implants really, actually people got them until I moved to California, and they're everywhere because I didn't see too many in Texas or in Oklahoma.
Right.
But
the Brazilian, let's talk about the Brazilian butt lift for just a second.
Okay.
So the Brazilian butt lift is really two procedures mixed into one.
Okay.
It's a lipo contouring to try to make a transition between the small of the back and then the cheeks.
Right.
And then taking fat and injecting it into the buttocks for change of shape and projection. Okay. It has the highest death rate of any plastic surgery procedure.
Wow.
On the order of 1 in 3,000, give or take, right? The number changes from time to time. Now, that's not the number in the U.S. That's a worldwide figure. And the reason for that is because if you really want that J-Lo round ass, you have to know your anatomy. The gluteus muscle is attached high and low. And as you fill that muscle, it's going to hammock out. So you have to inject the fat into the muscle. The problem is, guess what lives in the muscle? Oh, yeah, the big effing blood vessels that carry blood to and from the muscle. Yeah. And if you're injecting fat, aka particulate material, into the muscle, you stand a chance of injecting it into the blood vessels, which is a great way to knock somebody off.
Yeah.
In the U.S., the current recommendation across the board is to inject fat only into the subcutaneous space. That's how I've always done it because like goes with like.
Right.
And I'm here to tell you that I tell my patients, if you really want that enormous ass and you're willing to take the risk, you got to go someplace else. If we want to change the shape,
that's good to hear.
Ass shapes can be, boxy. They can be V shape. Right now in the U.S., the A shape is sort of what everyone desires. That more apple. Yeah.
Right.
So if we need to change some shape, you can
work
accomplish
on the
that
glute medius.
Go
to
right.
the gym.
You can accomplish that pretty easily. Don't my kids have to eat? You can accomplish that with a Brazilian butt lift, assuming you have enough fat. Butt implants really exist for a patient population that doesn't have enough subcutaneous tissue or enough fat to inject.
Right.
If you go to someone, they have an exceptionally high complication rate across the board.
Yeah.
I mean, you're putting in, and my understanding is that unlike a breast implant, which over time you just sort of forget it's there.
Yeah.
Every time you sit down, you're gonna be reminded that you had an ass implant. Okay.
Wow.
And I have friends plastic surgery friends that do it that swear by it and they love it. And I have not dipped my toes in that water yet. I mean, I know the anatomy, I know the operation.
Right.
Yet to be convinced that it's a good thing for the bulk of the people that get it.
Right.
That's check with me in a year. I may have gone to take a course and fell in love with it, and that's that. By the way, the joke, right? Everyone made their jokes about July and the new residents and all that.
Yeah.
The most dangerous week of the year for patients is not July. it's the week after the national conferences. Everyone goes and they see something on the video presentation.
Yes.
They think, cool, and they come back like, I want to try that.
I want to try it.
Yeah, that right. The first few weeks of July is usually a pretty safe time to be in a hospital because everybody's on their toes.
True.
Everybody's is newly minted in their new position, and everybody's on their toes.
True.
So I got to tell you, I've never seen a problem in July. I see the problems after people come back and they try shit that they shouldn't be trying.
You still oversee residents at the VA, right?
I do.
Man.
One of the things that was very difficult stepping away from Philadelphia is I really enjoyed and still do teaching residents. I think my greatest drug is a young resident that is really excited about what we do.
Yeah.
It feels the best. The ones that are disengaged, and there is a generational shift from when you and I did it.
For sure.
The ones that are disengaged, that they don't want to learn anything. You can't teach them anything. My day can't end fast enough.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
But when you're with someone that really is jazzed about it, boy, that's a great feeling.
For sure. Oh, I've got so many more questions, but I want to respect your time, and we're coming up on an hour.
I'm good. Fire away.
Okay.
And then we can wrap up.
Okay. So if you could change anything about your course as a medical doctor, would you change anything?
I wouldn't really. I mean, there's really a global conversation happening about the benefits of the 80-hour work week, and you and I both trained before that came into being.
Yes, we did.
And did I appreciate 9 years of 100+ hour weeks and zombie-like existence? No. Do I feel it prepared me for the job I do today? Absolutely. There was just a study that came out that said that the data doesn't say that the old timers, now we're old timers, sorry, Lauren, that we
Dude, you're 40. Wait, you're 47 and I'm 39. We are not old timers yet. Just for the record.
Relative to the generation of new doctors that are coming out.
Correct.
The data says that our readmission rate and our complication rate and all that kind of stuff is really not any better than the new ones. The problem I have with those kinds of data is, are we preferentially taking on the more complicated cases because the newer generation is not? I think it's more nuanced than that. I do believe that there's some science to it, that it can't just be our feeling about things.
Right.
That's experiential medicine. That's no good. But no. I mean, I've always my mom will tell you, she would walk me to school in the morning as a kid and say, "What do you want to do?" And I'd say, my mom was a nurse. And in Philadelphia, and she, "What do you want to do?" I said, "I want to be a doctor." She said, "No, it's hard on your body. It's miserable, et cetera, et cetera." And God knows, I stuck to it. And I'll tell you, I was an English major in college at a time in life when that was not a cool thing to be.
Right.
I did not get into medical school the first go around. This will really turn off your listeners. And I went to graduate school, and I had a great time in graduate school and parlayed that into my first choice medical school. Went to medical school. I knew early on that I was going to do something surgical. It wasn't going to be something medical. It was going to be something surgical.
Right.
I didn't have the patience or whatever for the hours and hours around
yeah.
it. God bless those people. We need them.
Amen. Amen.
But couldn't do it. Did not get into or went off to general surgery. Plastics was my very first rotation at York Hospital in York, Pennsylvania. There were 7 plastic surgeons at the time. They all seemed to enjoy themselves, and they were what we call doctors' doctors. In other words, when every other service in the hospital had a problem, they would turn to plastic surgery to fix it.
Yeah.
And I really liked, that feeling of being sort of the end of the line.
Yep.
Did not get into plastics my first go round. Matched into hand and microsurgery, and fell in love with hand as a specialty, and was very appreciative of my experience at Baylor, which was unbelievable. Really world-class people.
Yep.
And then matched to my top choice in plastics. So the world has, I deal with medical students and residents and everything in between on a regular basis. And people say, well, I didn't get into this, or I want to do this, whatever. And it's great. If the front door doesn't open, try the side door, the back door, keep knocking until you get what you want.
Man.
And I think that there are very few people that I know at this level who haven't fallen down at something. They may not want to admit it.
Yeah.
But there are very few people who have sailed through life, med school, residency, and all that kind of stuff, and not had something happen in their world.
Yeah.
And so my brother, I doubt he's listening, but he hates this expression, but I love the expression, fall down 7 and get up 8. And he argues how can that be? How can you fall down? Anyway, but the proverb of getting up every time you fall down and just keep going.
Failing forward. That's, yeah.
So the answer to the question is, I mean, for me, I really enjoy what I do. I still really, I hate the bureaucracies of hospitals. I hate everything about medical insurance. I really did not like, there was a period of my life I looked after a patient population that everybody had a chip on their shoulder. I didn't really enjoy that. I liked the work. Now I really enjoy what I do. And I love being able to teach. I love being able to do the work. And I like my team at the office. So for what I do, no, I'm happy with the path. It wasn't the one I plotted out, but it worked out well for me.
What is an unexpected lesson that you have learned from taking this path in life? You didn't know I was going to ask you some deep questions, did you?
No, they're good questions. I think, look, the best, I remember when I did not match in plastics, I thought I had an exceptionally good CV. I had done research. I had been down to the famous Johns Hopkins. I had done rotations there. They wrote me beautiful letters of recommendation. I still know these doctors. They're wonderful men and women. When I didn't get in, I was absolutely and completely crushed by it. And I called one of the plastic surgeons in York, Pennsylvania, lovely, lovely gal. And she said to me, if I don't start working my life's goal work until I'm 40, and I've got 25 plus years of doing what I love to do, how bad would that be? Okay. So all of a sudden, the notion of being derailed for a year or 2 or 3 didn't seem like the end of the world. So I think what I learned about myself, and it's been very beneficial, is that a lot of shit doesn't go your way. You and I offline, I mean, you know, a lot of shit doesn't go your way.
For those of you that don't know, he and I both have gone through divorce. So he's single, ladies, just so you know. but we both kind of were going through divorce around the same time. So
right. No, I mean, I think that the notion of perseverance and just not stopping, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I have so many people who any one of the things that happened to you and I just lay down and die.
Yeah.
And not, and you just have to decide that that's not going to be you.
Yeah.
I had to, I'm not going to be the wealthiest plastic surgeon. Don't care. Not going to be the most successful. Don't care. I'm successful in the way that I want to be. The other lesson that was very hard is I've been very fortunate to work with people that really are at the top of their game.
Yeah.
And if you talk to them, a lot of them are very frank about you've got to make some choices. You want to be the best anesthesiologist, plastic surgeon, hand surgeon, whatever it is. Something's got to give.
Yeah.
You're not going to go home and make dinner for your kids. You're not going to be at every game. You're going to have to make some choices. And so one of the things that I'm very appreciative of being divorced and having some things fail is it really helped me reset what's a priority for me, right? I was definitely on the academic track. I wanted to be a program director. I wanted to be a chairperson.
Yeah.
I wanted to just go, climb each rung of the ladder. And every time I did it, every time I signed up for another committee, another study, another whatever, it took more and more time away from my family and specifically the kids. And then I kind of woke up. One of the benefits of being in private practice is you realize that you very clearly define your time into what makes you happy or what pays bills. And if it's neither of those things, it's out. It's out.
Yeah.
I mean, that's because I could easily sign up for a dozen volunteer committees.
Yeah.
I don't. The furthest I've wandered into that is I've been very, very fortunate. I was really fortunate. I got to be a junior examiner. That's just what they call us for the American Board of Plastic Surgery. So I was an oral examiner. Probably one of the most professionally rewarding experiences that I've done. And you feel like you're giving back to the society. And so to me, that was a fair trade. But other than that, I really do try to eliminate a lot of the nonsense.
I love it. Okay.
I don't know if that answered your question.
No, for sure.
Killed a minute.
One last question, because we've already given advice to the people that are possibly seeking out a plastic surgeon. But what about my young listeners who are thinking about going into medicine, whether it be plastic surgery or not? Any words of wisdom for them?
Yeah, it's the most fun you can have with your clothes on. And, I mean, look, here's the bottom line. The scene in The Matrix where that kid's eating that bowl of gruel and he says, it's, how do you know it tastes like this? No one. So look, when I was a college student, I visited with a friend of mine's father, who was a cardiologist. and he was bemoaning the fact that the insurance world was changing.
Yep.
Because it used to be that he would basically write out a bill on a piece of paper, and whatever was on that paper is what he got paid.
Right.
Period. There was no
Wow.
pre-authorization, predetermination, pre-go fuck yourself. There was none of that. Right?
Exactly.
And electronic medical record didn't even exist as a word. And so now we come along and we graduate, right? And that's our new normal.
Yes.
So I chafe when I hear people say, well, I wouldn't encourage my kid to go into medicine, or I would, they got to go do something else. Wait, stop. When they finish, all this stuff that we find frustrating is going to be their new normal.
True.
And if they can, listen, medicine across the board, I don't care what aspect of medicine, from mental health, which probably needs more attention, to what I do, to what you do, to whatever, it's still, I think, a very sacred thing to do.
Yeah.
We've lost a lot of respect in society's eyes because of Dr. Google. People routinely will come in thinking they know more about it than I do. God bless. I don't even bother engaging because it's not worth it, right?
No, absolutely. Don't waste your energy.
Right. So 6 years of post-college training plus 9 more years in 3 different surgical sports. Unless that's on your CV, no, you don't.
No.
But I look at it, it's constantly a teaching role. It's teaching patients, it's teaching residents. I make it that enjoyable for myself. That's how I make it enjoyable. For my children, for anybody that wants to do it, it's a calling. You feel like, don't do it for the money. That's a fucking mistake.
No,
like,
exactly.
Go work if you want money, go work at a pizza place or something else, because no, seriously.
No, true.
Like in 1996, David Nash, who was one of the health policy people at Thomas Jefferson, where I went to medical school, showed a case study where a kid finishes high school and decides to be an apprentice, a plumber, journeyman, apprentice, journeyman, master, however it works out, but he ends up becoming a master plumber.
Right.
And compare that to someone that goes on to college and to medical school and residency, whatever. If it's a pure financial equation, that plumber is going to do much, much better than the physician. So don't do it for money. That's a mistake. Don't do it for fame and glory. That's a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
Do it because you really enjoy helping other people. Do it because you want to use either your thinking or your thinking and your hands to help other people, and do it because there will always be a place in society for physicians. We are under constant attack by other people who think they can do what we do. And this will upset a lot of people right now. Nurse practitioners, CRNAs, PAs, all of these mid-level providers. A provider is someone that hands me a hamburger at Whataburger, right? That's a provider. You're a physician or you're not.
Right.
And I say to people all the time, you want to be a bus driver, go to bus driving school.
Right.
No one's ever going to convince me that those roles exist for anything other than a cost equation. It's not quality, it's cost.
Right.
Cost a lot of money to train doctors, cost a lot of money to open medical schools. There's a national shortage of primary care providers.
Yes.
They're used as a provider. The solution, as far as I'm concerned, is open up more residency slots.
Yeah.
Make it more financially enticing. Okay, you want to do a primary care in the middle of nowhere, you're never paying income tax. Whatever you got to do to make that palatable.
Right.
There are ways to do it that we're just choosing not to, because we think that telemedicine and all this other crap is going to take the place of actually touching, feeling, and seeing a patient.
Right.
And that's horseshit.
Yep.
So, but that said, I would very much encourage anybody who wants to go into medicine to go into it. And if they don't get in, I would encourage them to keep trying, right? Mm-hmm. People say to me, well, what do I have friends, their kids are in high school. What do they need to do to look good for a college application? Or they're in college. What do they need to do to look good for med school? Be the best student you can be.
Exactly.
Be the best student you can be. Be well-rounded. Don't spend every summer volunteering in a hospital. Take that, that ski trip or go, bus tables. Show me that you're a real person, that you have other interests,
Yeah, absolutely.
It's one of those things, but that's a really long-winded answer to the question about, I think it's still this amazing opportunity that you have to get to see people oftentimes at their worst, right? Yeah. Yep. Worst day, worst whatever.
Yeah.
Not much of what I do anymore is life and death. Not that I had a problem with that, but not much of what I do anymore is life and death. But for a lot of medicine, every day involves life and death. That's a pretty special position to be in. There's nobody else on this planet that gets access to that on a regular basis.
You're right. You're right.
And
it changes your whole perspective of life.
Right. And even if the rest of society doesn't want to show it respect, I think we respect it among each other that do that kind of work.
True. Very true.
I mean, I think the neurosurgeons and the cardiac surgeons are egomaniacs and whatever, and
they
whatever. But I'll give them props to what they do. Every single day they take somebody's life in their hand, and a bad day for them is a really fucking bad day for that patient.
Exactly.
So I give them grief, but I also give them a wide berth. It's one of those things.
True. Well, I appreciate your time because my whole message, anything that I post or talk about on my podcast or videos is helping people learn how to love their life. And there are some people that their step in seeing a plastic surgeon like yourself is an act of self-love and saying, you know what? I want to feel good about myself, and I'm okay with going and seeing this surgeon to help that process happen.
Oh, yeah.
I love that.
Absolutely. Hey, wait, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
So I'm probably late to the game, but I've recently discovered a book that we've talked about with a lot of our patients called The Obesity Code.
Oh, Jason Fung. I'm trying to get him interviewed, or I'm trying to interview him.
All right, please, Dr. Fung, interview with Lauren, because we all want to hear about it. So, I mean, it's a fascinating look. And I'll admit that I'm only 2/3 into it because I enjoy buying books almost more than I enjoy reading them. It's just finding time, but it's a pretty fascinating hypothesis.
So you need to read. So he wrote The Obesity Code, The Diabetes Code, and The Complete Guide to Fasting. And all three books are really great. I listened to them. I learn better by listening. So I do the audible.com.
Right.
But he is a brilliant man, and he is truly changing the face of medicine. And his IDM clinic, what does IDM stand for? Integrative Diabetic Medical Center, something like that. It's in Canada, and he is truly. He's reversing diabetes in people that have been on insulin for, decades and getting them off insulin in 8 days. I mean, it's like he's doing amazing things. And, so much of, I mean, we weren't taught that diabetes type 2 was reversible. It's a chronic progressive disease, but truly, outside of traditional Western medicine, there's this whole world that, I've learned post-residency, and it's just, I wish that Western and Eastern medicine could figure out a way to work together and it financially be paid for, because there's, I see a chiropractor. When I was in med school, I thought chiropractors were quacks. I did. But I believe in what they do. Just like I didn't believe in acupuncture until I actually saw it work in patients. When I was on PD anesthesia, I was my attending. He was an attending. We go to this patient who had like 30 surgeries for scoliosis, was getting titanium ribs, and the mom immediately asked my attending, "Do you do acupuncture?" He's like, "Yeah, I do." And she goes, "Okay, good, because that's the only way that his post-op nausea vomiting will not happen." And so, like, something that I thought was woo-woo or quackery, I've seen work, and I just wish that Eastern medicine and Western medicine could come together, and I wish that there could be a new model where people have, because I pay out of pocket for my chiropractor, and all of the treatment that I get there, so I can prevent being the patients that you and I used to take care of, and you still take care of on a regular basis, I hope there's some days that my hope for medicine in general being healed and going in the right direction. But, I feel like as long as there's people like you and me, we have to join forces and make a difference,
The single most important thing that physicians need to realize is that, number one, we gave away all the power, but we still have the power to take it back.
Yeah.
UNLV trauma was just getting the shaft forever and a day, and they staged a one-day walkout. And amazingly, there was a lot of reforms that happened in that one day, and all the trauma patients were diverted, right? That's probably hard to do across the country, but I bet, and why do you think the laws are set up that we can't collectively bargain, and we can't form, there are a lot of things that physicians can't do. So
Right.
that seems pretty shitty.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the next wave is going to be physicians. And there's a gentleman in town. Boy, I wish I knew his name off the top of my head. He runs a medical clinic, no insurance. Everything is like, I'm going to make up numbers, but let's say his physical exam is $25 or labs or, $15. It's what things can really cost and really be.
Right.
And I think that, in plastic surgery, it's a very clear model, cash pay. Here's what my time is worth.
Absolutely.
Here's what it's going to cost you. And we push everybody we work with to shave that margin down as tight as possible.
Yeah.
That I think should be the coming wave of healthcare.
Yeah.
The insurance companies will fight it. The government will fight it. Everybody's going to fight it because it's going to take a lot of money out of people's pockets.
Yes, it will.
If you look at the cost, if you look at a cost graph of medicine over time, the amount of money that goes to physicians has remained relatively static over the last 25, 35 years or so. The single fastest growing section is in the healthcare administration section. I don't need an administrator to tell me how to do my job.
No.
And yet, the time when doctors ran hospitals is over, unfortunately. But I think we need a return to that kind of model where we collectively take back the authority that you earn through years and years of training. I mean, I can't tell you how frustrating it is to deal with these administrators and insurance people.
I remember.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
I do not miss that shit at all.
Right. I mean, even doing a peer-to-peer conversation with insurance, and you say to them, well, what kind of medicine do you practice? Well, that's not important. No, it's really important, because if you're again, not throwing shade, but if you're a pediatrician, we're going to have a hard time discussing why this 50-year-old woman needs a breast reduction because of neck and back pain and those kinds of things. I mean, it's a frustrating system that we've allowed to evolve.
Yep.
But rather than throw our hands up, I would say to the next generation, continue to be activists within the system. There's a lot of people that you start to complain. But one of the lessons, I'll leave you with this. One of the lessons that I've definitely learned the very hard way is if you point out a problem enough times to people that don't want to see it, you become the problem. And so I'm okay with that role. I really am. That doesn't, I've lost friends. I've lost other things along the way. I've upset people when they say, why do you have to complain about this so much? Because it's wrong.
Yeah.
It's wrong. And it's just my nature.
Yeah.
I would probably be a lot more successful, a lot further in life, et cetera, if I would just learn to shut up at times. But that's not me.
I'm right there with you. I'm right there with you, my friend. Well, I appreciate you so much. This was so much fun. I have a feeling that I can think of at least a handful of my friends that I know if they're not listening to this live, they're going to be listening to it because they're in positions where they need to hear what you talked about. So
you're very sweet. You're very sweet. And you know what? If you, I'll give a plug. If you want to do this again, I'd love to do it again. This was a lot of fun.
Excellent. If people want to find you, where do they go?
BaumholtzPlasticSurgery.com. That's BAUMHOLTZ. Plasticsurgery.com. That's the website. And then our email is just info@the letter B, plasticsurgery.com.
Cool. That's easy. Excellent. And you really don't have to be on social media. So I typically ask for like your handle or whatever,
Well, our Facebook and Instagram is just Baumholtz Plastic Surgery.
Okay, perfect.
Instagram is B Plastic Surgery, I think, because we couldn't get the whole thing. Yeah.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you, Mike. I appreciate you greatly.
Bye, sweetheart.
And thank you guys so much for listening to this episode of the Fitz and Healthy podcast. If it was helpful for you, make sure that you share it with the people that you love most. And we will see you on the next episode of the Fitz and Healthy podcast. Bye.